Alrighty, party peoples of the interwebs. Viva Fry, former Montreal litigator turned current Florida rumbler on the beach in Florida, and following the news that's coming out of Canada, I'm not emotional, but I do tend to cry during a good song, a good movie, and sometimes I do cry out of frustration. You know, like when you're trying to get the screw back into the leg on your glasses and you can't get the damn screw to get into the threads and you get so bloody frustrated, you just cry. And it's not sadness, it's frustration. That's how I feel about what's going on in Canada right now. The news, for those of you who haven't heard, coming out of Nova Scotia, is that they have banned going into the forest, going into the woods, fishing, hiking, camping. They've banned it for 2.5 months until mid-October to combat, ostensibly, pretextually, the forest fires. Now, many of you know my history. I'm in Florida now because I had an opportunity, came down to the land of the free in the free state of Florida. I've got my issues with Canada, and I've got my issues with many Canadians. I do not take pride in counting as my neighbors people who think it was okay to force children to get a shot, an experimental jab, show a QR code in order to play sports. I don't like considering as neighbors people who literally called the cops when they saw people playing in the park not social distancing. I don't count as neighbors people who thought the Ottawa trucker protest was a terrorist, far-right extremist gathering, and that Tamara Leach and Chris Barber belong in jail for 7 and 8 years. They may be my neighbors, but I don't count them as my neighbors. I don't count them as friends. I don't count them as people I want to be with. And the problem is that way too many Canadians, not all of them, way too many Canadians are of that psychological, political ilk. They think the government gets to govern you harder, and you're a better citizen for saying, govern me harder, government daddy. During COVID, it's an amazing thing what they got away with. And I went through some of the videos of Justin Trudeau during COVID because listening to Tim Houston, the Premier of Nova Scotia, talk about how they are telling you to stay out of the forest. Don't enjoy the great outdoors of Canada because of forest fires, which may or may not be the result of arson on the one hand and government neglect on the other. Set that aside. Listening to Tim Houston talk out of Nova Scotia, the same province where they outlawed through injunctive relief, they prohibited outdoor gatherings to protest the COVID measures. Now, in fairness to Tim Houston, I don't think he was premier at the time that occurred, but it occurred in his province. It occurred through his courts. They issued an injunction to prevent outdoor protests to protest the COVID measures. That's Nova Scotia, that's Canada. I said for a long time now, Canada's saving grace was its great outdoors. Some of it's great Canadians, but it's great outdoors. And now the government of Nova Scotia is saying, you don't even get to enjoy the great outdoors. Stay in your government city ghettos. Stay in your 15-minute cities. You no longer have access to the great outdoors, hiking, fishing, because everybody knows forest fires are started by fishing. By the way, you'll see this at the end. I'm going to play the video of Tim Houston talking about it. They are strongly encouraging you to restrict your own behavior, your own mobility on your own private property. If you own a cottage with a lot of forest land, they strongly encourage you to stay out of it under penalty of a fine as serious as if you were doing outdoor burning, $25,000.
So what does this mean if you have a home or cottage surrounded by a wooded area? We strongly encourage you to stay out of those woods, regardless of where they are.
During the COVID crisis, which the more I go back and rewatch the videos, it was pretextual. I am thoroughly convinced they took a bad flu season, which did in fact originate from this COVID that originated from a lab in Wuhan, China. I believe it did. I believe that COVID itself was worse than the flu, but comparable to the flu. I believe they rebranded it as COVID and then claimed that nobody died from the flu from some miracle, whatever. But rewatching all of these videos, they are reusing the same tactic over and over again, and for whatever the reason, it seems to be working. Emergency, stay home, do not go outside, locking you down to some extent for the remainder of summer. Some people don't need to go outdoors, don't need to use the forest, don't need to use the great nature that is Canada. This is what Tim Houston said. It's unnecessary. Stay in your cities, go to the beach if you have to, but if you have to go along a small path to get from the forest to the beach, do that, but that's all you get. Listening to Justin Trudeau talk about COVID and how it sucked, I didn't realize how many times that jackanini used the term, I know it sucks.
This pandemic has sucked.
It sucks when the government takes away your rights. Oh, you're damn right it sucks. Oh, but we have to do it in the name of science? Horse crap. Tim Houston, in announcing the ban, says he knows it sucks that they are telling you you can't literally go outdoors, go hiking in the forest. We pay taxes, by the way. This is public lands. You pay taxes on it. They take your taxes. They mismanage your taxes. They mismanage the forest. And now to combat forest fires, which are the result of arson in large part, by the way, look it up. I was called a conspiracy theorist for saying, holy crab apples, this looks like arson. Oh, wait a minute. They went and arrested the people who were responsible for the biggest fires in Nova Scotia history. Arson. Mismanagement of natural resources. Mismanagement of government resources. How many firefighters did they lay off or did they force out of the system because of the COVID jab? The news coming out of Canada is literally that you cannot use the great outdoors, cannot go hiking, fishing, camping unless it's on designated campgrounds. And Tim Houston knows it sucks. This is the absolute state of Canada. There are great Canadians out there who have been fighting this from the beginning. There are some who had to leave because living among neighbors who are neighbors like that, you're better off leaving. They would see you rot in jail because of your ideological differences, because they have been so thoroughly duped into being governed harder that they can never admit that they were wrong for being governed harder in the first place. So if you can believe it, that's the news coming out of Canada. I'm gonna go to the beach because I dumped my kid off at camp and I think it's a cardinal sin to pass the beach and not go in the water. That's Canada. Enjoy this montage. The first clip is Tim Houston making the hard announcement. He knows it sucks. And then follow up after that is gonna be the montage of Justin Trudeau saying he knows it sucks. It sucks when the government takes your rights away, but we have to do it because we are your daddy now. Govern us harder, daddy. Viva Fry. If you're still watching now and you haven't liked, shared, subscribed, I don't know what I gotta do, but that's the news in Canada. Peace out, peeps. Enjoy the nature for a second.
Effective 4 p.m. today, we're telling Nova Scotians, stay out of the woods. We are restricting travel and activities that really aren't necessary for most of us. Hiking, camping, fishing, and the use of vehicles in the woods are not permitted. Trail systems through woods are off limits. Camping is allowed, but only in official campgrounds. The fine for violating any of these bans is the same as the fine for the ban on burning, $25,000. And if you're a smoker, for God's sakes, be mindful of where you're butting your butt out. If you don't, and you cause a fire, we will hold you accountable. So what does this mean if you have a home or cottage surrounded by a wooded area? We strongly encourage you to stay out of those woods, regardless of where they are. Please don't do anything that could unnecessarily put you, your family, or your neighbors at risk. This situation sucks. This situation sucks. This situation sucks. Summer is one of the best times in Nova Scotia, and we all look forward to getting outdoors and enjoying our scenic beauty that surrounds us. I get that, and I'm right there with you as Nova Scotians. But you can still go to the beach. In fact, that's a great place to be on these hot, dry days. Just no bonfires. If there's a short trail to get from point A to point B, like from the parking to the beach or to the lake to fish, that's fine. But that's it. No heading into the woods to spend time there. I know it's inconvenient. I know it's the height of summer vacation and people want to do all the activities that we so much enjoy in our great outdoors. We have a beautiful province. I know everybody wants to enjoy it, but we have to stay out of the woods. It's a small price to pay right now to avoid the kind of devastation that we saw from the wildfires in 2023. This situation sucks.
We are in an unprecedented global pandemic that really sucks.
My message to Canadians, first and foremost, is I understand this sucks. This pandemic has sucked.